After years of fertility issues and her mother-in-law's nagging, a woman has her assistant as a surrogate, but things don't go as smoothly as planned. Mama Drama. This is the synopsis of the movie Mama Drama. Hey guys, welcome back to Sahara Movies. I'm Didi and I'm your host for today. Today we're taking a look at this Nigerian movie that recently went on Netflix in 2021. It was actually released in 2020 and managed its way through to Netflix in 2021. I saw it and I think it's good. It's a good one. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe for more videos and more updates. In this video, I'll give you the general review of the film, and then we'll look at it in a different perspective, like the acting and the production. Now let's go into it. So the movie starts with a man and his wife going to visiting the man's mother, so let's say mother-in-law. And the woman was pregnant, but the reception the mother-in-law gave to her daughter-in-law was bad. Like, it wasn't good. Like, it was obvious from even watchers that this lady was really suffering from, like, being in that state of being married to someone's, like, being a daughter-in-law to someone who doesn't want her. To make matters worse, she's been battling with having a child for so long, for so many years. So that makes it a bit, not, I wouldn't say understanding, that makes what her mother-in-law's behavior, I wouldn't say understanding, but it will make it a bit acceptable that she's maltreating her. So neglecting from that scene, instead of going through all this pain, all this trauma, all this disgrace, humiliation and all that, they decided to innovate in the sense as in, if you are not being able to have a child on your own, why don't you bring a third party into the picture? So that is, you've innovated, you've been able to think outside the box, because if you only use one means, then you are going to die like that. There's a saying that if plan A doesn't work, you should use plan B. And the alphabet A to Z, there are lots. So if plan A doesn't work, you don't have to stick to plan A for the rest of your life. You need to move to plan B. So that is what this couple decided to do. And in deciding to make this big decision, they went ahead to talk to their mother-in-law, not to ask her for permission. They just wanted to inform her, like a matter of courtesy. They wanted to let her know that this is what we are doing. The humiliation is too much. Like, so even let's just put the humiliation aside. We also want to have a child on our own. And this is also a modern way of doing that. And people do it. But since mother-in-law is thinking tradition, she's still thinking back like tradition. I don't know how I should even say, like, her thinking is still archaic, even though she's living in the 21st century. She disagrees. But what I liked about the couple's decision was they were not basing it on their mother's or the mother-in-law's agreement or not. They had made up their mind to go and do a surrogate, to go and get a surrogate for what they wanted to do, and their mother-in-law's point of view wouldn't be a problem. Fast forward, they got a surrogate who happened to be the lady's secretary at the office. So the family took the lady's secretary at the office, her assistant at the office, to be a surrogate. You know, that a surrogate should be a random person, dude. Okay, let me start by explaining a surrogate. So a surrogate is someone who decides to offer herself to as I don't know how I should term it, who decides to offer herself to be used, like, for a child to grow in her when the child is not her own child. You know, these days you can just get sperm or semen and then get an egg from a woman and do those scientific things and then insert it into another woman, and the one becomes a surrogate. So those are the process. A surrogate offers herself and is and gets pregnant for a couple who are battling with children, or even sometimes not necessarily a couple. Sometimes a woman alone wants a child, but she doesn't want to have the child on her own. She goes to the hospital, and those fertility clinics, a lot of these things go on there. So that's how surrogate is like. And it could be any random person, but I think it will be better if you know the person. At least you have a relationship with the person, maybe a relative, a friend, a close friend, or something. So this lady decides to use her secretary, and that makes sense. A secretary is someone who is close to you. At least you can monitor her. And this family is a very rich family, so if they decide to hire you to be their surrogates, then it means the money that's coming in, it wouldn't be a small amount. And at that time, the surrogates, I wouldn't say was poor, nor was rich. She was like in an intermediate, like she wasn't high, she wasn't low, she wasn't poor, she wasn't rich, but someone who would appreciate money, like, because she's a young woman who was growing up, so she appreciated the money, decided to have the child. At that time, she lost the child in the process of having another person's child. That was fine. She was compensated handsomely. She was compensated handsomely with a huge sum of money, because that's what the family or the couple could offer. They have money, but they don't have a child, so they take you to give them a child, and then they pay you. Back from that scene, surrogates gives the child to them. I'm not good with names, and I watched this movie about 3 or 4 days ago, so I've forgotten their names. I'm sorry. So back from that scene, the surrogate gives them the child, a beautiful baby boy, Shei. Very beautiful, lovely boy. Like, he's pretty. So basically, the child is for the couple, just that they wanted something for the child to grow through. Unfortunately, the surrogate loses her husband along the way. After giving them the child, she loses her husband. But at that time, she was already rich. She had made enough money from, I'm sure, investing, setting up her own business and all that. So she became rich. One day, that's this saying that we live in a small world. And yes, small world happened in this movie. They met. The couple and their baby boy, or their boy had grown like 7 years. They met with the surrogate. They met with her at like a restaurant. And instead of her showing excitement of seeing like the child and all that, she was shocked. Like, she was pleasantly surprised at seeing them. That was the least thing she could have expected on her visit or something. She was so shocked. So as she saw them, I was wondering what's going on in her head. Why is she surprised? Is she something like, even before the film started, when the surrogates lost their child, I was thinking when she gives birth, she'll run away with the child, because she'll feel, I lost my child because of this baby, and now I'll take the child on my own or something. So that was what I was thinking. But it didn't happen that way. The next day, they were just there. They received a letter that the surrogate has taken the case to court. Oh, how? Like, I don't understand how or why you should take this case to court, because I hired you to give me a child, and the child is my own egg and my husband's semen or my husband's sperm. You have been able to give the child to me. I've paid you. We've signed an agreement. So why have you now taken the case to court? To go into detail, not knowing, the surrogate knew very well that the child that was in her tummy was for her. Like, she knew very well the child was her, because before she went for the implant, she had already had sex with her husband, and that's wrong. Like, there was something like that, but eventually it was turned out that the child belonged to the surrogate. So this part became a law scene. So this movie, it includes a bit of tradition, a bit of modernization, a bit of law. Like, it's a mixture of all these. It tells us that in this life, we need all this to progress, or we need all this to develop. Tradition makes you, though it's a bit retarded or something, it still puts you at the right place. Like, you are aware of what you want to do, because tradition is against it. But sometimes when it is so, it doesn't really make sense to you, and it's tradition, you can ignore tradition and go ahead. And also brings in modernization, like the surrogacy issue. It's a modern something that you leave tradition and jump to surrogacy, because surrogacy is modernity. And the last part is the law of it. When it turned out that the surrogates disagree that she is a child of the couple. She took the case to court. Eventually, after the DNA, it appeared that the child belonged to yes. After a long, adjourning the case, arguing, you see, court is about whose case is whose argument is nice. I mean, that's how I see court. When you take a case to court, you only need a good lawyer, because if you don't have a good lawyer and even your case is so right, like everyone is for you, like everyone is supporting you, and you don't get a good lawyer, you lose the case. Yeah, in this case, they both had good lawyers. After the DNA it was declared that the child Sheyi belonged to the surrogates. Yes, we understand, but there was one thing that the couple's lawyer said that really got me. It was like, yes, we agree that the child Sheyi belongs to the surrogates. Yeah, that's fine. Let's put aside that the surrogates disobeyed the agreement that we did, because we signed an agreement before the whole process. You violated the agreement. Let's put that aside. Now, after years, you've returned that you want the child. Let's put that aside. After investigation, after the DNA, you realize that the child is yours. Yes, the court, we agree to it. But let's be on the perspective, or at the perspective of the child. A child has lived with this couple for 7 years, thinking they are his real parents, for 7 good years, thinking they are his real parents. He grows and finds out that he has a real mother elsewhere. Isn't that going to torture the child's growth? And that was where I was like, yes, it's good to know the law. Like, it's really good to understand the law aspect. Isn't that going to torment the child's brain? And yes, it will. And also on another part, this is a single mom. She has lost her husband. So leaving a child who, first of all, doesn't really know she's his mom. And second of all, she's a single mom. It doesn't put the child on a safer angle. And yes, lo and behold, the court said yes. The child belongs to you, single mother, but the child will live with his parents, like his claimed parents now, until he's 18 years and he can make his own decision. This is a very good judgment. The child will live with these parents until he's 18 years and he can make his own decision, whether he wants to go to this person or that person. That was a very good judgment that the judge made. Even though eventually the couple and then the surrogates came back together, I feel this movie is commendable. The storyline is good. The acting is also good. I mean, the storyline is something that really makes sense. And it's a 2020 film that I feel made use of tradition, modernization, and then law. Like the law, the judgment was good. So let me know your thoughts. Have you seen this movie? Have you seen it? Do you like it? Is it something worth watching? Upon listening to my review, is it something you'd recommend or you add to your watch list? Let me know your thoughts. Our idea for today, if you're new to this channel, this is Mama Drama. Eventually, there was unity in the family. Eventually, the guy's mom understood that surrogacy is something that it's good. It's actually something good. You should watch the movie to how she began to understand that aspect. Till next time, till my next video. Bye.